Now to Florida, where Donald Trump and Mike Johnson are about to speak. The Republican strategist Doug Heye is with me. I mean,
Good to be with you.
They don't like each other very much. They are political bedfellows. Trump sort of endorsed. What can come out of this?
Well, I think it starts with where they are right now. It's been a very tough week for House Republicans. It's been a tough year, and it's been a tough year plus for House Republicans. With the small majority that Republicans have, with Donald Trump now not just being, the figurehead of the party or the alpha dog, but being the presumptive nominee, I think it was important politically within the Republican conference for Mike Johnson to be with the president. They talk a lot, but they haven't spent a lot of time together. So he wants to be with him to talk about what he's trying to do, to learn more about what the president, or excuse me, the former president is trying to do, and then also to change some of the conversation from what it's been over the past week and month to get Republicans back on offense. With the small majority that they have, Richard, it's been very difficult for them to do, as everything I've seen you cover for House Republicans hasn't been very positive because of what's happened.
Right, but if I was at Mar-a-Lago, my first question to Donald Trump would be, Mr. Trump, will you tell Marjorie Taylor Greene not to oust the speaker and to give him support?
Yeah, look, one, I'd love to see you do that. I'd like to see more people ask Trump that because that's the biggest problem that whether it's this speaker or other speakers have had is one person because of the rule change that Kevin McCarthy unfortunately agreed to can set us into chaos. And this is why the speaker is in Mar-a-Lago now, is to try and work on that so that he doesn't have that problem moving forward. But again, when you have a majority that is that small, it could be Marjorie Taylor Greene, it could be somebody else. Right. Republicans put themselves, because of the move that McCarthy made, in this very difficult situation.
This next question to you is not about your own personal beliefs, I emphasize. Well, you'll see where I'm going in a second. But how uncomfortable are you, as a Republican, as the former RNC communications director, with the stance taken by the Arizona Supreme Court, essentially eliminating abortion in the state?
I think it's a political disaster potentially for Republicans, and you see that not from Washington D.C., but you see it in Arizona. So Carrie Lake, when she was running for governor 2 years ago, she praised this law that essentially was reenacted by the Arizona Supreme Court. Now that she's a candidate again running for Senate, she has completely changed her tune, and she's trying to talk to her Republican counterparts in the state House and the state Senate to change this law. And where Republicans have a problem here after the Dobbs decision is it is not a problem that's going to be solved in Washington. It could be in any state. When we were talking about Arizona, it came up out of nowhere. Could be Texas, could be South Carolina. And that defines things, Richard, nationally for Republicans and negatively.
But you know that old saying, Doug, when digging a hole, it's often best to stop digging. The Democrats tried to overturn this, or they tried to legislate that would essentially have restored the 15 weeks or whatever it was, the status quo ante, and Republicans wouldn't let them. So they are just digging their own hole deeper.
Well, they are, and I think part of the problem, Richard, is there are a lot of shovels. And what I've learned in my time working in House Republican leadership is that what's a priority for House or Senate leadership, what's a priority for Republicans in Washington, D.C., quite often is not that same problem in state capitals in Raleigh, North Carolina, Tallahassee, Florida, or wherever you may be. And that's why Republicans are finding themselves on the defensive, essentially playing whack-a-mole. Because again, we could be talking about South Dakota next week. We could be talking about any state where Republicans are in charge or a court decision with a trigger law.
Which, of course, is essentially what happened in this case. Finally, will it turn into a single issue, do you think, in the election?
I don't think it'll be a single issue. If you look at polling that goes in detail on issues, what we see is abortion is the only issue where Joe Biden has a very comfortable lead. On everything else, crime, immigration and the border, certainly the economy and what things cost, Joe Biden is completely underwater. That's why they are talking about this right now in Arizona, and Donald Trump and Mike Johnson want to talk about something else. It's essentially to talk to a UK and international audience, what side of the pitch do you want to be on? And that's the conversation that you want to have and what your opponents don't want to have.
Do you have a good weekend planned ahead?
I have no plans, which is actually a great idea for a weekend.
Excellent. Doug, always good to talk to you. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Enjoy the peace and quiet and turn the phone off.